two, three. All right, guys. Where are we? 14th of May, 8 o'clock. My colleague is just over there. He says, "Are you ready? One, two, three. Shoot." We go. It's beautiful. All right, guys. So my name is Eric. I'm your host tonight. We're gonna do a webinar on how to improve relationships. Yeah. So welcome to your full potential. Let's see who is here. I'm just gonna have a quick glance who is here in the chat. The chat is open as always, so feel free to put something in there. Say hi to everybody who's around. I will be asking questions as well, just to get a little bit of an idea of your understanding of the topic tonight. We are on Zoom, as you are watching from Zoom, of course, but we're also on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. So hello, everybody out there. It's great to have you. All right now, so hi guys, how's the sound? Is the sound okay? Can you actually hear me? Do you have some sound? Please let me know. And actually I have a question for you to start with. While that gives me a little bit of time to see who is actually online tonight, because I think we have more than 90 or 100 registrations. It's really exploding lately, which is cool, obviously. But let me check out who is online tonight. I can already see people chatting away. That's great. I'm always very, very interested in two things at the start, which is where are you from? And why in particular did you come to this webinar tonight? So maybe there's something specific that you want to handle, something specific you want to know, something that you're running into in life when it comes to relationships. And okay, so bear with me. I'm going to have a look. So we have, let me see if I can actually encompass that. That is a lot of names, guys. Oh, wonderful. Okay, so I used to have this habit to call everybody's name, but it's a bit much tonight. So let's see what we have in the chat, right? Sound and video working fine. Video doesn't work. Okay, good. So Isabel, maybe Pavel, maybe you can give Isabel a suggestion. Video doesn't work for her. Kyle is there. That's great. Ibrahim, yes, I do, please. All right, Ran from Dublin, Ireland, very excited to participating in this course. Thank you for hosting this interesting course. Okay, that's great. Maria, yes, I have sound. Okay, fantastic, guys. All right, now, so let us know, is there a specific reason that you came to this webinar tonight? Is there anything that caught your attention? Say, oh my God, improving relationships. What is this all about? Or maybe something like, yeah, I need some more tools. I'm running into stuff. I don't know how to solve it. We're going to actually have a look at some very specific things tonight. And I'm just curious, what are you guys running into when it comes to relationships? Now, with relationships, it could be anything. It could be related to family ties, could be related to social ties. But of course, we also have something like developing business relationships, right? I'm going to show you a vital tool that could actually help you. Now, by the end of the evening, bit of a spoiler alert already, by the end of the evening, I'm going to show you guys a book where I actually got this material from. So I'm going to keep that a bit as a teaser for you. Yeah, perhaps if you want to know what the book is, you have to stay till the end of the webinar. Okay, it's not too bad. It's just an hour. So I hope you bear with me, guys. All right, so Kyle is here because the webinars are so informative. I think this is my 60th. Well, yeah, that could be. That could actually be, Kyle. Lovely. That is amazing. We've Kautar here from Morocco. I'm looking for enhancing my communication skills. That's fantastic. All right, good. So, you know what? Thank you for the replies. Like I said, the feedback is wide open. Please use it because I'm going to ask you my first question. Now, listen carefully. Listen carefully. How does it affect you if somebody does not understand you? What kind of impact does that have on you? How does it affect you if somebody doesn't understand you? In other words, how does it affect you if you don't feel understood? If you don't feel understood, then what happens to you? Yeah, that's the question. All right. At times struggle to express my thought clearly. That was from Ran, hoping to learn communication skills. Okay, good. Nisha can be annoying. All right. Jermaine, misunderstood, undervalued. Okay. Meaning like you feel undervalued. Is that the answer, Jermaine? All right. And there is a person that I missed, and he or she says, I'm from Cork. Okay. Yeah, all right. All right, it's Maria. I'm from Cork. Like to learn some techniques how to do better with conflict. Okay, if the other person begins to escalate, I begin to freeze and panic a bit when with any response. Okay, good. I got that. And maybe, just maybe, you're gonna get an answer on that tonight. Yeah, I think so. All right, so frustration and embarrassment. I always feel there's a lack of reality between me and the other person. Okay, very, very frustrated. All right, so I think we're getting to the core of what this is all about. So what are we trying to accomplish when we communicate? What is the whole idea behind communication? What is it that you're trying to do? So behind everything that we're doing, there seems to be a goal, right? There's a purpose to something that you're doing. So what is that purpose? What is it that you're trying to achieve when you actually communicate? And what you're trying to do is actually to reach understanding. So we're going to take that as a key word, understanding. And logically, like you already said, it's very, very frustrating if somebody doesn't understand you. And likewise, you've probably seen this in school, all right, with certain subjects, and say, oh gosh, I don't understand this. And again, you get that same frustration, right? So it affects you in a very, very bad way if you do not understand something, or on the other hand, if you're not being understood. So apparently that is the goal of communication. The goal of communication is to reach understanding. Say, hey, I get it, right? Or the other person in front of you is totally on the same wavelength. He gets it, right? You're being understood, right? And that's, most of the time, it's actually a pretty good feeling, right? Now, so we're going to dissect this understanding in three different factors. Three different factors, right? You could also say three different components. The first component is reality. So reality, it has this word real in it. So with reality, we mean real things. So when we communicate, most of the time, when we reach proper agreement, it is because we're talking about real things. Well, if I would say this is a black marker, it's very real to me, and you would say, yeah, Eric is probably right. It looks very much like a black marker. And we would agree that's a real thing, right? I could hold up some keys, right? And say, well, these are keys. And you'd say, yeah, that's true. That is clear to me. That seems to be very real. These are real keys, all right? So when we talk about reality, we mean something that is real, that is tangible, that you can see, that you can observe, that you can perhaps touch, right? The real things of life. That's what we mean by reality. So reality is real. There's another thing there. Reality is also agreement. So when we have the same reality, this is a black marker, we agree that that black marker is real. It exists in time, it exists in space, it's observable. You can hold it in your hand, you can see it. So it's a real thing, and so we can agree on that. All right. Now right away you see that it's far more easy to agree on something that can be observed, like a real thing, an object, than when we talk about an idea. So an idea is not an object. not something you can see, right? Not something you can observe or touch or feel or smell. So therefore, it's far more easy to reach an agreement when we're talking about real things. And it's a bit harder to find an agreement when we're talking about ideas. Isn't that an interesting thing there? Have you observed this? Have you observed this like, hey, actually that seems like something to be true, you know? If I can see it, if I can perceive it, you know, if I can feel it and touch it, yeah, you know, it's far more easy to reach that agreement. You know, you can just come to the same conclusion. Yeah, that thing exists. All right. So reality is the stuff that you can agree with. It's very, very simple. All right. But when we're talking and when we're trying to get our things across, let's say from me to you guys, and you're chatting away in the chat, right? You're trying to get your thing across to me and to the other people, right? So what is that? We're trying to reach agreements. We're trying to get our realities across. That's what we do the whole time. When we communicate, we're just trying to get these realities across. I'm trying to get my reality across to you. You're trying to get your reality across to me. That's all what communication is about. All right, now, there's another factor here. So, and that next factor is affinity. All right, it's a very, very fancy word, affinity. And this word affinity actually means love. Or it means liking, a certain degree of loving, a certain degree of liking something. Or a lack of it. So you could have a lack of love, right? So you know that, you know, some people have a lot of love and some people have a lack of it. Okay, now, so why do we take such a chic, such a fancy word if we mean love or liking? Why do we call it affinity? Why don't we just call it love or liking, or, you know, a lack of love or a lack of liking? Why that chic word? Well, that's because there's an interesting phenomenon. It's very interesting. Is when you love something, you like to have it very near to you. And when you don't like something, you want to keep your distance. Is that right? When you like something, when you love something, you like to have it near to you. And when you don't like something, don't love it at all, you actually want to keep it at a distance. Is that true? All right. Hi, everyone. Anita from West Midlands, UK. All right, that's great. So, how does that work? How does that affinity work? So, affinity is also a thought, a consideration of distance. It's a thought or a consideration of distance. All right, so let's do a little scale here. Oh, by the way, Pavel, you have my picture, yeah? Okay. Just wait. Yeah. All right. Just between Pavel and me, who's sitting next to me, is actually helping you guys to answer any question. If you have something personal, he can help you with that. So let's do a scale here, and that will be a scale of affinity. So let's say on top, let's just make it easy. Let's say on top of that scale, there's a lot of affinity. Let's say we put love there. Let's say at the bottom of the scale, let's say we put hate. Okay? So here you like something a lot, and there's something you absolutely hate. Now, this is of course true for people. It can also be true for objects. You could You could definitely love a person. You could hate a person. But likewise, you could, basically no longer like any materialistic object. So here's a scale. And so what happens? If you love something, or let's say you love somebody, you like to have that person really close to you. And if you hate somebody, you keep your distance. So affinity is actually like a mental expression how you handle distance. So let's take, for example, let's take a piece of garment. Maybe you imagine that at some point you bought a jeans or you bought a shirt and it's just your favorite color, it's your favorite piece of garment, and if you really love it, you would like to have it close to you, so you wear it a lot. Me, for example, my favorite is white shirts. So you'll see me in a white shirt every day. Pavel, for example, my colleague, he likes black. You'll see him walking around in black every day. This is what he loves. And for me, it's like, oh, that's so easy to see. He's in black every day, It's so real to him. And probably every time when you come to a webinar, you say, oh, Eric is always in the same white shirt. That's what's real to me. Right away you can spot that, right? Now, just maybe, you find a shirt, or you find a dress, or you find a trousers, whatever, in your wardrobe that at some point you bought, that just ended up in your wardrobe. You never really liked it, and it's still there. So your affinity for that wouldn't be hate, but it would be a lot less. So you keep that thing at a distance. Does that make sense? Just quick feedback question for you guys. Affinity, there's that whole idea about distance. Does that make some sense? Okay, Kyle is tracking. Beautiful. All right. Makes sense. So, a very nice affinity, you could imagine, very nice affinity, is if you could actually tolerate just anybody in your space. Now, if the person is an a-hole, so to speak, obviously you don't want to have that person in your space, so you're going to take your distance, and your affinity would be low. That is the simplicity. All right? Good. So, I have a question for you now. Yeah? So do you know somebody who doesn't like people very much? Do you know such a person? Do you know such a person who doesn't like people very much? You could say, yes, that's me. Yes, Eric, that's you. We know it's you. Okay, yes, my cousin, yes, loads. All right. So you know loads of these people, right? There's loads of people who don't like other people. So right away it tells you if they don't like people very much, their affinity, their love of their liking of people is actually low, right? They don't like people much, so they naturally keep you at a distance from them. Now, maybe not always physically, but mentally, you're at a distance from them. Mentally, you can't come close to that person. Okay, now, do you know people who easily like others? They're always chatting away and making new friends and say, oh, there's somebody new, let me walk over and let's see who this person is. Do you know people who actually easily make new friends? Yeah, and easily like others? Yep, me. All right. All right, Jermaine, sure. Guys, fantastic. Okay, let me see. What else do we have here? Okay. Beautiful, guys. Right, so if you know somebody who easily like others, yeah, that person has a lot of affection, He likes people, right? And therefore, he can actually tolerate people really near to me, and he likes to have people very close. That's how it works. So ideally, you are a good friend of yourself. Yeah? If you, let's say, if you hate others, if you don't like others, that's actually an indication that you also don't really like yourself. And if you like other people easily, that's actually an indication that you are quite happy with yourself. You see, these things are universal. They're kind of true. Now, that affinity is actually expressed as an emotion. So I wanted to show you, just for the fun, just wanted to show you a picture. I hope that Pavel has it ready. I'm going to put a picture on the screen. In the meantime, I'm going to have a sip of my tea. Does that work, Pavel? There we go. All right, and I'm back in the image. All right, so here's a scale. You could say it's a vitality scale, right? It shows how much life energy is in that person. So you can imagine, like, on the top of the scale, when a person is happy, he's got a lot of energy. He has a lot of energy. It's very easy for him to get out of bed and get started in the morning. Likewise, at the bottom of the scale, when a person finds himself really hopeless, it's all hopeless. Why even try, you know? What's the use anyway? So if it's all hopeless, you'll find out that person has a serious lack of energy, right? There's not much life energy at all in this person. So while we go from up to down, that life energy is kind of like a little bit sucked out, bit by bit by bit by bit. So on top of the scale, we would have this happiness. If the person loses a little bit of that, he's kind of like satisfied, contented. If he loses a bit of that, he gets bored. If he loses that, he starts to criticize, to nag, and to fight, and these kind of things. Below that, he starts to run away from things. Below that, he's actually dwelling in his losses, and after that, he kind of like completely gives up. Now, this is affinity, this is love or liking on display, and it probably becomes a bit more clear to you when we add in the consideration of distance. All right, the consideration of distance. So I'm going to ask you, where do you think, if you look at the picture, and what kind of emotional state, where do you think people start to attract other people more? And what kind of emotional state do they attract people? Between contented and happiness, happiness attracts people, happiness. All right. So I think we have a common agreement, right? We have this reality now. And it seems to be real to us. It seems to be real that when you're happy, you know, you easily get along with others, right? It's a bit easier. Yeah, you tolerate people in your space. People can actually come over to you, and you can have that. You can tolerate this. You wouldn't mind this much. Okay. Now, all right. Of course, what can happen is that, you know, sometimes we talk about being on the same wavelength, right? So if you're sad, right, you would understand somebody else who's also sad. You can understand that, right? It's a bit hard to understand the person who is sad and you are super happy. You're adventurous, you want to go out, you want to do fantastic things, and you're running into a person who had just had this major loss. Obviously, that person will not go along with you in your endeavors, in your adventures, right? So these are like different wavelengths where people find each other. Now, I'm just talking about, let's say, that space, right? Now, what do you think, what kind of an emotion people would repel another person? Yeah, which is like, get out of my space. Yeah? Don't come near to me. Where does that happen? Yeah, bored, hostility, fear. All right. So you can see that with these certain emotions, you see that, hey, you know, we're becoming less tolerant to have people near to us. So for example, when a person is hostile, when he's angry, yeah, he's fighting with you because he doesn't want you to be anywhere near. And if you come near, he's going to use his fists or bullets or whatever because he doesn't want you in his space. Right? Now, when we go to boredom, well, you might be in his space, but he's not really interested in having you in his space. And if you might stick around for a little bit longer, you might actually get a bit irritated. He drops down a little bit to hostility, perhaps. Yeah. When a person is in fear, he might actually be afraid of you. He might actually run away from you. Maybe he doesn't do that, but mentally he's like, oh, you know, let's not go too far in this. You see how that works? You know, for example, at the bottom of the scale, when a person is in hopeless, he hardly notices that you are there. You are there in the space, but he hardly notices. He's so introverted in his own problems. All right, now, it is actually in the book that I'm going to show you tonight. So, that is a manifestation of that affinity. I hope that just gives you a bit more of a picture. Pavel, we can take the picture away. We're going to go to the next topic. All right, just bear with me, guys. Whiteboard is a little bit wet. Okay. So, Kim. All right, let me read that, Kim. Now and then, I just want to see what's going on here. People tend to gravitate to what they are comfortable with. Yes, exactly. Yeah, often this is what they're used to. Universally, like, people tend to have low positive energy. All right, good. That is actually a topic of one of these webinars, you know, how to predict the behavior of people. We're not going to go there tonight, though. So we looked at understanding, right? And we just covered reality, the real things. We just covered affinity, liking something. There's one more factor here, that is communication. So, what are we trying to do with communication? It's actually quite simple. So let's say here we have Bill. Bill just bought a new bat. Bill just bought a new bat. And he wants to get that concept across to Joe. And he uses communication. With the purpose, with the intention, that Bill is going to get the same reality. So, the whole idea is that Joe understands, Bill just bought a new bat. So what's the idea here? Bill actually wants a 100% copy. All right. So, question to you guys. What do you think is going to happen when Joe does some misinterpretation? Maybe Joe thinks of a bat like one of these flying animals that you see in vampire movies. Bill is just thinking about a baseball bat. So what would happen if Joe doesn't make a 100% copy? What do you think is going to happen? Will there be any understanding? That's a question for the chat. Will there be any understanding? Let me get out of the picture. So Bill's got that reality. He wants to get that reality across to Joe. He's got this thing. He says he just bought a new bat. What will happen if Joe doesn't make a 100% copy of it? What's going to happen? Curious about your answers. Is there going to be any understanding? Or is this a hard question? Is this a hard question, perhaps? I think you guys can figure this out. What is going to happen? Do we have... Oh, let me see. All right. I think I was not tracking on the chat. See, I have to keep scrolling. Okay, possible confusion. Nope. Misunderstanding. Nope. Bill should specify what kind of bat it was. There would be a loss of understanding and reality. Joe doesn't think at all. Either understanding or confusion, depending on how Bill takes it. Exactly. All right, so if we look at the mechanics here, it's interesting. So the whole purpose here is to be understood, right? And so we're going to get a reality across We're going to get a reality across the distance by communication with the intention to bring about understanding. Okay? Now let's say Joe is not the brightest person. Joe has no idea what he means with a bat. So now, Joe has no idea what Bill means with a bat. We do not have the same realities, do we? Okay, so do you think the understanding is going up or down when we're not talking about the same thing? So is the understanding going up or is it going down? It's going down, definitely, right? Definitely the understanding is going down. All right. So we don't really have an agreement, do we? So these things are not really real. And we cannot really find an agreement. So at first, that agreement, that reality would also go down. Now, let's say one keeps insisting in his mind there's nothing else than a baseball bat, whereas the other one says, well, there's nothing else but a vampire bat. In other words, he knows only one definition for the word bat, and he also knows only one definition, but they have different definitions for it. What do you think is going to happen to the affinity between these two guys? What's going to happen to their affinity? Will they still like each other just as much as a moment before that? Is that affinity going down or is it going up? It will drop, right? And actually what you will see is that that distance is going to widen. Tells you the affinity just dropped. Yeah. As a result, you will see that the communication will also drop. Okay, now let's put this in a sketch that we can actually understand, make something very, very visible, very understandable. I'm going to wipe the board again. Thank you guys for all the answers. Now we're going to put these three factors, we're going to put them together in a triangle. So here we have affinity. Now remember that was love or liking. And then we have reality. This was agreement, remember? And then we had communication. And these all, they together, they make up understanding. So, it becomes quite easy to see that if you don't love, if you don't like a person, if you find it just impossible to like a person, you cannot communicate with that person. You cannot come to an agreement on anything because you simply refuse to communicate because you don't like the person. So you couldn't come to an agreement. On the other hand, if there's nothing that you can agree on, that communication is just going to fall apart and you're going to turn around and say, oh, the guy is in that case, or I just don't like him. And likewise, without any communication, well, if there's simply no communication, you could never really like a person because you wouldn't even look at the person. So how could you like him if you wouldn't even look at a person, right? And of course, once again, you could not find common grounds. So, and now if you look at understanding, you'll find out, so hey, you know, the things that I understand, I'm quite willing to play with that, to touch it, to communicate with it, to hold it, to reach to it, and to let go of it and reach to it again. If I understand it, let's say, I don't know, subject of physics or maths, you know. But if you would understand it, you wouldn't mind reading a book about it. You wouldn't mind communicating with it. You would probably quite like it. And the whole subject seems quite real to you. Okay, now let's see how this works out in practice. Let's see what time we have. Oh, guys, we got plenty of time. Beautiful. All right, now let's say, let's make up an example, right? Let's make up an example. Let's say you just bought a new iPhone. You just bought a new iPhone, and that thing is very real to you. Yeah, it's something that you like. And you want to communicate with that. It's your thing, right? So that is totally real to you. All right, a friend of yours comes over and he says, what do you have there? I said, what? iPhone, latest model. The guy says, okay. How much did you pay for it? You say, oh, 1,200 euros. He says, there must be something wrong with your head to pay that much money for a phone. Okay, so now you have different realities, right? Now you have different realities. Okay. So as a result, would you like to communicate more, or would you like to communicate less on the subject of iPhones? Absolutely less, right? Okay. Do you like that person, your friend, quote unquote? Do you like it that he actually made that statement? Do you like it that he told you that's a complete waste of your money? Do you still like the person as much as you liked him before that? You liked him less. All right. So what we have here is a triangle. That triangle is called ARC. And what we just witnessed was an ARC break. It was a sudden break in affinity reality communication. How did that happen? How did that happen? Well, you didn't come to an agreement. You had very different realities. So therefore, the reality here actually it became less. The agreement became less. The communication lessened as well. And I also liked the person less as before. So the understanding dropped. All right, so it tells you right away, what is it that we're looking for? What is it that we're looking for in social interactions? Well, we're looking for understanding. We're simply looking for just for that, to be understood. Okay, so how could we actually have approached the situation? Let's say your friend, again, same example, he just bought a new iPhone. You come in, to you, for example, it's a total waste of money. That's your mind, yeah? Just as an example, let's say you think, oh my God, that's a total waste. So you say, hey, what you got? Oh, he said, I just got a new iPhone. Now, the main thing here to understand is that, that is very real to him. It's very real to him. He actually likes it. And he has it in his hand. He's communicating with it. Okay? So he has ARC. He has ARC for that iPhone. Something you can see right away. He's got ARC for it. He's in communication with it. He loves it. He wants to have it in his space. He wants to have it near to him. He's checking it all the time. It's a very real thing to him. All right? So you're not going to crush his ARC. Because the only thing that the guy wants, and that you want, that both of you want, is to be understood. So, how much you pay for that phone? He says 1,200 euros. You say, wow, all right, that must be a good phone, man. What do you know, right? You're not going to break his reality. You don't have to go into, oh, you're wrong and I'm right, because that's what whole society does. It's like, well, you're wrong and I'm right. All right, it's like this tooth and claw, you know, kind of society. Everybody wants to be right. No, you know, what it's all about is everybody wants to be understood. It doesn't matter if you're right. Everybody can be right. The whole thing is everybody wants to be understood. So we just try to seek understanding. So all you try to do here is acknowledge that reality. All right, so let's see how that works. Let's say we have a triangle there. There's some understanding. Say, hey, Joe, how you doing? I'm good. All right, what do you got in your hands there? Oh, I got, you see, it's got the latest model iPhone. All right. So what'd you pay for that? I just paid 1,200 euros for it. You say, okay, so you try to understand his reality. You say, wow, that must be an amazing phone. What can you do with a 1,200 euros phone? And now you're talking his reality. Now you're talking his reality. What can I do with a 1,200 euros phone? Okay, he likes that question probably. So you just increase the reality. Now, does he want to communicate on that topic? Oh yeah, for sure. What's going to happen to his affinity? He's gonna say, hey, come over here, come over here. I'm going to show you. In other words, his affinity just broadened, right? Now you see that triangle is actually becoming bigger. Ah, is that how it works? So now we just raised understanding. It became so visible. You know, your friend came closer to you and she said, here's my phone, have a look. Right? So the affinity, the distance went in, and right away you can sense, all right, the understanding is going up. All right, so how can you use that in your life? How can you use it in your life? Well, let's say you're going to meet somebody for the first time. Let's say it's a job interview. It's a job interview. Many of us have been struggling with that, right? With job interviews. Oh my God. What am I going to tell to, what am I going to say to this guy? Am I going to talk about the weather? Say, I'm sorry I'm late because it was raining, or, oh, it's a beautiful day, sir, isn't it? Do you also like sunshine? Are you also a fan of clouds and rain in Ireland? Right? Something like that. Well, maybe you would, right? But it can be way more simple. So you look around in the person's environment, and you'll find a lot of things that are real to that person. Remember, reality is the real things. So Eric's got a red tie, right? He's got a ring on his finger, right? He's got a blue jacket. And always see Eric with markers, because Eric is a lecturer, right? And Eric likes to give the example about his keys, right? For example, right? So you'll find Eric's realities. Same thing you can do with that person that is going to give you the job interview. You walk in and say, oh, all right, he's got a UCD diploma. He went to the University of Dublin. And you get a nice picture there of his family. And he's got 3 kids. And he's got let's say, a retro ship on, I don't know, maybe a painting or whatever, right? He's got a model ship sitting somewhere on a shelf, and whatever. You find all kinds of things which are real to that person. Now the trick is to find something that is also real to you. It is also real to you. Maybe you're actually studying in university. Maybe he's got a college diploma and you go to college as well. And maybe say, oh my God, wow, that's fantastic, you know. I'm also a student. You'll find a common reality somewhere. Maybe not that common, but something that you can agree with. Something that you can like. I say, sir, have you been to UCD? And so you actually enter in on the person's reality. So right away, you're in communication, because he's very willing to talk about his realities. And as long as you're not going to make him wrong by saying, oh, that's stupid. As long as you simply acknowledge, so I understand. Okay, yeah, I've been there too. As long as you acknowledge, you're going to keep that triangle nicely growing. Now, sometimes you're dealing with somebody might be a bit grumpy. So I don't like this person so much. It's going to be hard to talk to him. Well, then what you do is see if, affinity-wise, see if there's anything, just anything that you can like about the person. Maybe there's something there that you can like about the person. Maybe say, oh, you know, his shoe taste is not so bad. The hairstyle is not so bad. Or whatever, something that, okay, good, you know, at least I can appreciate that point in the person. He's got a well-trimmed beard. He takes care of himself, apparently. Okay, I can like that. Right? You just try to keep that affinity there. You have to put some affinity there, right? Because otherwise you're going to be out of distance. And then you find a common reality, and you will see that the communication will start flowing. All right, now, just to get your guys' feedback, because I've been doing a lot of talking, let me scroll the browser. Does that make some sense, guys? Does that make some sense? This ARC triangle. Makes sense? Understandable? All right. Okay, what is that other thing there? Absolutely, amount I've learned from the webinars, Eric. The books have changed my life completely. Lovely. All right. Nita, definitely. All right. I like to praise people who are what I want to see in them. Okay. I like open you word to that idea. Okay. I like how I like how you see the best in people. Yeah, makes sense. All right, beautiful guys. So, now there's a few little details. Let me see. Okay, we have a bit of time. There's a few little details when it comes to communication. When it comes to communication, you always want to make sure that you don't lose that eye contact. Now, why is that so important? Why is that so important? Because we're dealing with understanding. Yeah. So let's say I would ask you a question, but at the same time, I'm looking at my phone. You would know that I'm not truly interested in you. You would sense that, hey, his affinity for me is somewhat lacking. Yeah, he's watching his phone while he's trying to talk to me. He doesn't seem to have that much affinity for me. People just recognize this instantly. Yeah, that's why that attention is so important. Now, also, for example, completing the communication. So you would think like, okay, if I would ask you a question and you give me an answer, and then I don't acknowledge, well, many people think like, okay, well, that seems to be all right. Question, what is your age? Answer, 40. Something is missing. Question, what is your age? Answer, 40. Okay. What's your age? 40. All right. You see, actually, there's a few more steps to be taken. Now, you can learn more about that in the book that I'm going to present you tonight. But before we're actually going to go there, I just want to give you a few more examples so you actually see how that whole thing works with ARC. Yeah, we're just going to make this a bit more understandable even. Now, do you recall a moment that you had to kiss somebody? You had to kiss somebody, but you didn't want to. Do you recall such a moment? Like you had to, maybe your parent told you, maybe your mommy told you, well, yeah, honey, we're going to go in a moment, but first I want you to kiss auntie and kiss uncle and kiss the neighbors. Yeah, and after you've done the full circle, we can actually go home. Yeah, but you actually have to give everybody a hand and just kiss them on the cheek. Yeah. So this is demanded. That is demanded ARC. Yeah. Somebody tells you you have to love that person, but you don't. You say, somebody tells you that person ought to be very real to you, but that person isn't real to you. Somebody tells you you need to communicate with that person. Say, but I don't want. So it's demanded ARC, right? All right. Now, do you recall a moment that you felt very, very affectionate towards your partner or towards a person, and the person pushed you away? You recall such a moment? And you felt a lot of ARC. You felt a lot of love. You felt a lot of affection. You wanted to communicate with the person. You wanted to show it. Have you ever seen that you actually felt a lot of affection for a person and the person pushed you away? Of course. All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that was inhibited. Like, you felt love for the person, but the person pushed you away. You wanted to communicate with the person, but the person didn't want your communication. That person was very real to you, but you were not real to them. And it gives you an ARC break. Yeah, it breaks your ARC. So if you do that to somebody else, just realize you're going to break somebody's ARC. Yeah, the person feels not understood. You see, you break somebody's ARC. So it's not always easy, but it's more easy if we understand it. Yeah? You want to show love and say, oh, I don't want you. You want to talk? No, I don't want to talk to you. Right? That's inhibited. You want to show and demonstrate your ARC, but it's inhibited. All right. Now, here's a funny one. Do you recall a moment where somebody demanded that you talk to them? You need to talk to me. You need to listen to me. You recall such a moment that somebody demanded that you talk to them? Yeah. All right. Now, so did you agree much with that person? Yeah. Was that person very real to you? Did you agree much with that person? Well, probably not. Did you like that person? Probably not. Did you want to communicate with that person? Well, probably not. So there was no understanding. That person demanded ARC, here again, demanded it from you, but there was nothing there. And he didn't put it there. He was just demanding it, but he didn't put it there himself. Okay? Now, do you recall a person who constantly corrected you? Do you recall a person who constantly corrected you? Have you ever seen that? Yeah. All right. Yeah. Kind of nasty, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So if a person is constantly correcting you, it's like, I'm right, you're wrong. Yeah. You cannot reach an agreement. He's constantly correcting you. You cannot reach an agreement. It is impossible to like such a person. It is impossible to have a decent communication. Right? Okay, so that would be like an inhibited reality. You're not allowed to have your own reality. That's what he's doing. You're not allowed to have your own reality. Yeah? It's got a lot of facets, this ARC triangle, but it's beautiful. Bottom line is, keep that in mind. What we want to go for is not the fight, it's not the I'm wrong or you're wrong, I'm right. We actually just want to say, all right, yeah, I get you. Maybe, let's say you're in favor of political party A, and you meet somebody who's in favor of political party B, and you go like, oh my God, how can you be so stupid? Well, there's no reason to diminish that ARC, right? Because maybe you could agree on 9 topics out of 10, but you couldn't agree on politics. All right. So how do you handle that? Well, you could just simply say, okay, I understand. I understand you're in favor of party B. Or maybe the person now wants to have more communication on that. So, honestly, I'm not too much home in politics. It's been a long time ago that I read something about it in a newspaper. I tend to stay away from it a little bit, and just leave it leave it there perhaps, yeah, but not go into this agreement, disagreement, bounce off on each other, break up the understanding, because it will just give you bad relationships. Yeah. Now, a final question here. Final question. Do you know somebody who affects you badly after you have been in company with that person? Do you know somebody who's affecting you badly after you have been in company with that person? Yes. All right. So just realize there that when somebody's really affecting you badly after you've been in company with that person, what happened was that you had a decent amount of ARC, which was, remember that scale of emotions? Yeah, maybe you felt quite happy or contented, right? But you were in touch with that person and you dropped on that scale. You were no longer as happy as before, right? Your realities got crushed. That person didn't allow you to have your own viewpoints, right? Maybe the person was talking so much that you didn't get a chance to say anything. You had to just listen, nonsense, balderdash, garbage, and just take it all in. But you didn't want that, right? The person creates a bad effect on you. So what happens if that happens? Let's say you had a decent amount of ARC, but it kind of collapses after you met this person. You kind of like come to the conclusion like, hey, this shouldn't happen again. These people are not really my friends. When I have a bad feeling in the end, like because there was nothing that we could agree upon, we didn't really have a nice conversation. I felt that my affinity dropped. These are bad signs. Yeah, you want to stay away from that. All right, guys. So I think we ended quite punctually here. So was this a bit clear for you guys? Does that make some sense? Did you learn something tonight? All right. Okay, good. So nice. You liked it? Nice. Now, thank you so much. New understanding from me. Makes a lot of sense now. Yeah. All right. Now, is this something you can use? Is this something you can use in your life? You think you can actually start using these principles? Most definitely. Okay, beautiful. Yeah. So try it out when you want to talk to somebody new. It could be the funniest thing. You meet somebody in the street and go, oh my gosh, what a darling. Oh my gosh, what a hunk of man. And you just find out that the person has a certain book in his hand. So, oh, all right, that's his reality. I'm just a few meters behind him or her. Let me make a statement on the book. Hey, you're interested in photography? What happens? The person turns around. Person turns around. Affinity just went up because the distance narrowed. He says, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do like photography. Oh, now we're in communication. So easy. It's fantastic if you actually start to practice with that stuff. Now, if you want to know a lot more about this, and if you want to know a lot more about how to improve your social skills, but also improve your survival, and also if you also want to know who you can actually trust, that's a key thing nowadays in society. If you actually want to know who you can trust, and if you would have tools, real tools that would tell you, all right, well, this person you can trust, that one you can't. Right? These tools you can use in order to improve relationships. There's some more than just the ARC triangle. These tools you can use to better your own confidence, to find your own goals, to be more efficient, and to basically accomplish more in life. Then I have a recommendation for you guys. Yeah, and the recommendation is the book that's going to show up right now. think you have it right, Pavel. Right? Okay, good. So I'm going to show you that. Yeah, it's a book by L. Ron Hubbard. Is an author. He did a lot of research in the field of the mind and life, and these kind of things like communication and interpersonal relationships. And the book is called Scientology, A New Slant on Life. Yeah, you'll find the ARC triangle in there. You'll also find that emotional scale in there. You find a lot of things in there, and so the link is down there in the description. And basically, it's a book about you. It's a book that gives you tools for life. All right. Now, I think, yeah, it's a Scientology style. Well, basically, if you look at Meetup, you'll find out that I'm a consultant in Dianetics and Scientology. Basically, I think everybody of you guys have seen that, so should probably not be overlooked. Okay. Did Tom Cruise write the foreword? No, he didn't. Neither did I. But thank you for asking the question. Yeah, you know, this is part of the being wrong and right structure on the planet. Yeah. So in this case, you know, every movement, every ideology, every piece of wisdom has been attacked. You know, Scientology is one of these things. It's fine. You know, even heroes have enemies, right? You look at the world today. A lot of heroes have enemies. So it's fine. Take it for what it is, and just take your own, you know, take your own stance on it. Yeah, your own eyes are always better than somebody else's eyes. That's the main thing. Okay, good. Yeah. So, any questions, guys? Any questions? So, Pavel, you said there was a question, right? Okay, good. So I think there was a question. Pavel just mentioned there was a question on the three factors. It's a unilateral triangle. It's a unilateral triangle. What does that mean? Just like in maths, right? If you reduce one corner of the triangle, the other two corners will automatically follow suit. That is, if you're going to communicate less, then there's going to be more distance. In other words, the affinity is going to be less as well. The affinity is going to drop, right? Likewise, the level of agreement is going to drop. Yeah? If you're going to communicate more, even though you're not really in agreement, but if you're willing to find the agreement, and if you keep communicating more, then the agreement will go up. And eventually, the liking, to some extent, will start to improve. Okay? More about that, of course, in the book, but I hope that kind of like paints the picture a little bit. All right, Kim, I was super excited when I had Jehovah's Witnesses at the door. So fun to see these things in reality. I bet. Fantastic. All right, guys. Now, I'm not sure what the deal was, but the book is 17 euros. I think within Ireland and the UK is probably free shipping, but it might actually be all of Europe. I have no clue what my colleagues did. And finally, what I can tell you is that you can have it in I think almost 50 languages: Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, German, Spanish, English, Zulu, Arabic, you name them. All right. All right, Kyle, thank you so much as well. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. We're also doing in-person talks, which is in Dublin every Tuesday. It's normally from 7 to 8. That is in Fur House, Dublin 24, for anybody who's interested. Now, maybe Pavel, as a last thing, I think my card is over there. Should anybody of you guys have a personal question for me, I'm going to give you my WhatsApp number. Do you have any personal question? Is there anything that you want to improve? Okay, today we were talking about social skills, communication skills, right? There's a lot more that you can learn on the topic. We got some free stuff online on the internet. Maybe you want to know more. maybe you want to have some help, maybe something that you want to control a little bit better, feel free to pop me a question by WhatsApp anytime, and I'll be happy to respond to you as much as I can according to my knowledge. All right? So next week we'll be back again. I have no clue what the topic is, but I'm sure you'll find it again on Meetup. You'll find it on Eventbrite. So for now, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your participation tonight. Thank you so much for, yeah. Say again? Okay, yeah, if you look on Meetup, there is going to be a Dianetics event. And this is going to be all about the mind. It's actually going to be about what it is that's holding you back, that's limiting your potential, that's causing you stress, and how to fix that. All right? Okay, guys, so that's it for tonight. Thank you very much again. I hope to see you again soon, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Bye for now.